Hey everyone, and welcome to the Dota 2 Builds of the Week, the weekly series where I show you guys top 5 meta builds to help you get started learning new heroes in Dota 2. As always, a link to my Twitch is down in the description below if you'd like to join the action live, as is a link to each of the builds we're discussing today. Moreover, if you'd like to support the channel and these guides, be sure to hit the like button, because that is apparently all YouTube cares about. Anyways, we're talking about Position 1 Alchemist. Now, I know you're thinking, Alex, Alchemist usually played mid. Well, you know what? Right now, Position 1 Alchemist is seeing a lot of play in the DPC and Pro meta, especially at high MMRs. What's interesting is that in the actual DPC, his win rate is pretty low. It's like in the 20 percentile range, but in high MMR, it's pretty high. And so you're seeing a lot of like different kind of playstyles from Alchemist. So we're going to talk about the safe lane variant here, but it also can apply to the mid variant as well. So basically the way that mid Alchemist, even I'm making the mistake. Safe lane Alchemist is being played is you are taking a point in Stable Concoction up front, and then you're focusing in on Acid Spray with a value point in Greevil's Greed early on, because simply you want to accelerate your farming capabilities. What's interesting though is that you actually don't take Greevil's Greed to level 4 until you focus on Acid Spray first. The Acid Spray allows you to kind of push the lane very effectively, allowing your position 5 to pull very effectively. Moreover, it allows you to farm the jungle very, very rapidly. You are going Soul Ring into Phase Boots. There is a variant where some people are going Power Treads and taking the attack speed and damage talents. But in this particular build, because we're going Radiance, we're going to be more focused on the Unstable Concoction and the Health Talents, because you want to have that survivability and that sustained presence in fights. So Phase Boots into Radiance is the play currently, and then what you do is you go Blink Dagger. Once you have Blink Dagger, you are literally ready to fight. You're blinking on kind of like the Drow Rangers, you're blinking on the supports, you're blinking on whoever it is that is kind of vulnerable, and you're just literally punching them down with Chemical Rage and using Unstable Concoction and Acid Spray to good effect. Moreover, although it has been nerfed, the BKB is a core component of Alchemist, because during Chemical Rage, you don't want to be controlled. Moreover, you want to be able to utilize your abilities to good effectiveness, so BKB is something that really benefits him. Moreover, gives him a lot of damage as well. Then from there, you're going AC into Basher, Abyssal Blade. This basically makes you outright completely tanky, and at this point, you're going to be 6 slotted. You're going to finish it off with an overwhelming blink. So essentially what you're doing here is with Alchemist, you are essentially accelerating your farm very fast. You have incredibly fast timings. Once you have your Radiance Blink Dagger, you're basically just fighting everyone. It's very similar to the way like a Wraith King is played. Once you have your Radiance Blink, you are on top of guys and causing a ton of problems. That is how Position 1 Alchemist is currently being played. Position 2 mid, Lone Druid continues to be a niche pick in many of the pro games, but you're seeing Lone Druid being played here and there, and he actually has a tremendously incredible win rate at high MMR. In low MMR, his win rate's a little sketch, I think, because people try him out and they don't really get a handle on the difficulty of the hero, and they feed and they give up, and then, you know, that's it. But Lone Druid is a hero that is seeing a ton of play right now. I shouldn't even say a ton of play. Like, I gotta correct myself, because he's just seeing play, and he's a hero that generally is not played very commonly, but the players that do play him and do master him do find themselves in a very strong spot right now. The key thing to understand about Lone Druid is that you are focusing in on your Summon Spirit Bear and your Spirit Link back and forth. If you are getting a lot of harass, you can take Spirit Link at 2 and 3, because you're going to be getting Shared Lifesteal, which helps to sustain your lane. Now, the confusing thing about Lone Druid, which a lot of people struggle with, is the itemization. So I'm going to spend a little more time discussing that itemization with this guide. And again, this guide I think I've very well designed, because I've made it as straightforward as possible to build. So essentially what you're doing here is you're going to be getting a starting item of a Tango on your hero to help with your sustain in the lane, and you're getting Tango's Quelling Blade and a Blightstone on your bear. From here, you're going to have to see the tooltips. See how it says see tooltips? Each individual item, and this is the build order. So your first build is you're building Phase Boots, but this is an item for the bear, as you can see at the bottom. You're building these for the bear, you're completing it with the Claws of Attack first, and then an item for the bear, you're finishing your Orb of Corrosion. And then an item for your bear, you're getting your Mask of Madness. Now the key thing about this is that when you have these 3 items, your bear becomes basically murder central. You can basically run at everybody, slow them with the clicks of the bear, and then you get the Mask of Madness, which you can proc on your bear as well, which should in effect entangle your enemy, because you've got a burst of speed, you're going going to be hitting them, you're going to get entangled, and then there's the 5-second cooldown on the entangle, and then you should entangle them again right after that cooldown because you still have the effect of 6 seconds. So you get on top of an enemy, you activate Mask of Madness, you entangle, you hit them super fast, and then you have an additional second or so where you're still with the added 110 attack speed where you can potentially entangle again. So that's why the Mask of Madness with the Orb of Corrosion is so great for your bear. It allows you to get on top of someone and stick on them, and almost no one can really deal with this bear. And then you're going Desolator for the bear. This helps you to basically rack up kills with your bear. It improves your damage capabilities, and it also allows you to take down towers. And then finally, you're buying stuff for yourself. An Agnum Shard, which improves Savage Roar, which gives it a dispel and basically allows you to team fight with it more effectively. And also boots for your hero as well, because you're going to need that, because at this point of the game, you become a bit of a target. From there, double Wraith Band at 25 minutes. This is key because not only does it add some survivability and right-click capabilities of your bear, particularly in true form, but the armor is shared because of Spirit Link. So the shared armor is beneficial because not only are you getting a ton of agility at 25 minutes, you're getting additional armor as well. So you're getting 20 agility and 8 armor with these two relatively inexpensive items. And then Basher, and this is for your bear because it allows you to lock guys down, especially with when you consider entanglement and Basher. Like basically anybody that your bear gets on top of just dies. And then finally Assault Cuirass for your bear, and this is going to allow him to basically eat towers alive and basically be an absolute force in terms of tankability, his attack speed, everything. This is a perfect item for your bear. And then there's a couple kind of extension items. You know, you can build an Abyssal Blade for your bear from your Basher. If you're against anybody with evasion, MKB is important. You might need a Black King bar as well. And while incredibly greedy and niche, you can go Agnum Scepter on your hero. Although realistically, it is way better to pick it up off Roshan if you find yourself to be the primary carry in the game. So just bear that in mind. It is expensive, and even if you're going absolutely crazy, you're probably better off building an additional item on your bear as opposed to buying the Agnum Scepter. But if you can get it from Roshan, because you actually are a fantastic Roshan hero, by the way, if you can get it from Roshan, then you literally just end the game. So it's very good in that sense. It should be noted that this kind of build is a very standard, straightforward build. It can be done safe lane, it can be done mid lane, it can be done off lane. I mean, off lane might need a couple tweaks, but at the end of the day, if you're learning Lone Druid, this is a great starting point for you to learn what is mechanically a very challenging game. We couldn't talk about the pro meta if we weren't talking about Lycan, because right now the zoo meta is back. Like, this always happens, right? The zoo meta comes in and out of favor non-stop during the pro seasons, and now during DPC, Beastmaster and Lycan are being highly contested, and that's why you're seeing heroes like Winter Wyvern come back and Bristleback being so prevalent, because they're able to deal with these zoo heroes very effectively. But Lycan continues to be an excellent option, and if you are in lower MMRs and you want to have an impact on the map at all times, I'm going to tell you exactly how you can do that with Lycan. So basically, Lycan, his build kind of revolves around a couple core things, and you can go 1 and 3 summon wolves. I prefer to do Feral Impulse for the added sustain, although if you do, because it does give you the added regen. However, if you do get a quick Helm of the Iron Will from the Helm of the Dominator, which is your first item that you should be building, you can, if it's been a free lane so far, take the 3rd point and summon wolves for the added harassment. And because I mean, supports literally can't deal with these wolves; they just feed basically. What you're doing here is you are essentially taking your Helm of the Dominator as soon as you can. Once you get the Helm of the Dominator, you're taking a creep. You're going to be running at the opponent, because once you have the Helm of the Dominator, you're likely to have Shapeshift at the same time. You're basically diving the tower, killing the enemies, and then you're just taking the tower and taking over the jungle on that side of the map. One thing as Lycan that a lot of players make the mistake of, you want to take over the enemy jungle on the enemy side of the map. You can, when Shapeshift's off cooldown, go back to mid and take that tower as well, but you don't want to like TP to the safe lane, for instance, even if the guy's getting dove on, unless like you really want to. But you want to completely take over their jungle. You want to farm. It's one of the things that Lycan really accelerates at. You farm super fast, farm their entire jungle. When you're farming their jungle, their carry's not farming it, so you naturally create a situation where you're accelerating not only your game but your team's game as well. From there, you're going Ring of Basilius into Boots of Speed. These are absolutely necessary. And then what you're doing is you're building a Helm of the Overlord, finishing the Vladimir's offering first, getting your Helm of the Overlord, which is fantastic for obvious reasons. You get the, usually, I mean, the best creep to get usually is the dragon, because you can basically split push. You can take the dragon, you can put it in another lane, and you can fireball that lane while pushing another one. It's incredibly effective. From there, at as close to 15 minutes as you can, probably a little later because of the Helm of Iron Will, Helm of the Overlord timing, you're probably like closer to 21 minutes. But the Aghanim Scepter is amazing because what it does is it actually sends a wolf with every single wave down the lane, and it actually cripples towers. So you create a ton of map pressure just passively with 1400 gold. It's incredible. You're going drums, AC into Boots of Bearing, and then this basically completes your build. Now the other extension items, I should mention that this is basically a zoo build. You're increasing the attack capabilities of your entire team and your allied units, increasing the capabilities of your entire team and your allied units. If you're in a game where you feel like you want to be like a solo carry type thing, that's where you look towards kind of your Echo Saber, Deso, Basher type builds, your Silver's Edge, your Bloodthorns and stuff like that. It's super greedy as hell. And the Ags has kind of fallen off of the radar a little bit. When Carry Tiny was super popular, that was super popular. It's worth considering in some matchups. But regardless, this is the way that Lycan's currently being played. The zoo meta is back, and if you can amplify the amount of push potential your zoo creatures have, then you're in a good position as a position 3 Lycan. Every once in a while, there's this thing that happens in Dota where you have like this rock, scissors, paper type action with regards to heroes that become popular. Because sometimes heroes that are kind of like, they get buffed, but they're really not that buffed, they become more relevant because other heroes that got buffed become, you know, they're counters. So you start picking those heroes, and that's exactly what happened with Nyx Assassin. You're seeing a ton of heroes like ODs. You're seeing Alchemist. You're seeing Alchemist is different because of like with his acid spray and spike carapace. Anybody that creates AoE damage like bristlebacks, acid spray from Alchemist, spike carapace is great against because basically you proc it off the AoE. It's super easy to time. But also you have like the Zeus mid, the Zeus 4, the Zeus 5 that Nyx Assassin just destroys, right? So Nyx Assassin has seen this resurgence, and he actually did get buffed. Impale got buffed, and now you're seeing Nyx Assassin being played a little differently than before. So let's actually talk about how his build has changed over the course of these last few months. So the startup is pretty much the same. You're going tangos into Boots of Speed. You need the Boots of Speed to trade, or else you're just basically going to feed. You're going stick, you're going to be using the magic wand basically all game, into tranquils. Now this is where things get different. Traditionally, it's been like the tower defense rush for Nyx, where you basically build his Ags. You're not doing that anymore. What you're doing is you're actually rushing Blink Dagger, which is really interesting here. So you're rushing Blink Dagger, and you're going to be using it to essentially, get off your skills with some effectiveness. You're able to, sneak up on guys, vendetta them, blow them up. And then after that vendetta is off cooldown, you kind of lose that initiation capability. But then with the Blink Dagger, what you're able to do is you're actually able to blink Impale, right? You're able to blink Impale. It's a 2.6 second stun. Larger kind of the actual width of it has been buffed, and you can also mana burn spike carapace, so it gives you an ability to actually re-engage when vendetta is off cooldown. Moreover, Eul Scepter is still important. The reason for Eul Scepter, and if you're in a game where no one's buying dust, like, you still probably should buy it, but Eul Scepter is important because when you're in vendetta and you've been dusted, or there's a situation where you need to buy additional time for vendetta or impale or spike carapace to give you a bit of an escape, you're able to use Eul Scepter Divinity to good effectiveness. Also, the movement speed is very valuable for someone like Nyx Assassin. It can be also used as a setup for impale, which ironically is a little difficult to land from time to time. From there, Drums of Endurance into Boots of Bearing. That is basically the build right now that everyone's going. Now, with that being said, there are a couple other things worth considering here as well. You're seeing some people build Aether Lens on him. This is a pretty interesting thing, especially with Impale. A lot of urns, a lot of Spirit Vessels. Wraith Pact, okay? You're not seeing it as commonly now, but Wraith Pact's pretty cool on Nyx Assassin because he has that like survivability element of Vendetta, and the Wraith Pact and the Vlad's Offering Aura will be something that can kind of sustain a fight. So he's a pretty interesting choice there as well. And of course, if you want to be a complete degenerate, you can go the Dagon into E-Blade combination, which everyone will be absolutely thrilled to see. But regardless, Nyx Assassin, because of the meta, because of the Zeuses and the ODs and stuff like that, you're seeing him a lot more, and he's being very, very effective at all stages of MMO. Now, here's a guy that we've not talked about in a very long time, and Dazzle is in a really interesting spot right now because he's actually being played in the pro meta. We do see him from time to time and all through the MMRs of Dota 2, but pros generally just hate Dazzle because he kind of sucks. But now he's seen a couple buffs, and there's a key thing that kind of clicked in people's minds, and that there was a change made to Shallow Grave that amplified healing and has completely changed the way Dazzle's played. And I'm going to discuss that right now. So basically, the key thing to understand is that the healing amplification per 10% missing on Dazzle was recently added, and a lot of people kind of like didn't really pay much attention to this. But the key thing about Shallow Grave is you're usually casting on allies that have like 90% of their HP gone, so you're getting a huge amount of healing amplification. And that is what this build revolves around, the healing capabilities of your Shallow Grave and your other items and your other abilities. You have Shadow Wave, which is a good heal as well. It does additional damage as well. But the key thing to understand about Dazzle is that when you Shallow Grave someone, you Shadow Wave them, and then you get them with Holy Locket, and then maybe a Greaves if you go super late in the game. Mech, of course, which is much more achievable. Like, it's basically a like massive heal, like potentially 60 to 70% of the target's health, right? So it's insane how much healing you can do as Dazzle. Now, with regards to his item build, things have changed a little bit. You're taking double tango in the laning stage, and the reason for this is because Dazzle kind of has two power spikes. He has the power spikes early on, basically at level 1, where he can trade incredibly effectively. And then when he gets his Holy Locket and his healing kind of goes through the roof. But the key thing to understand about Dazzle is you want to use these tangos because before you start trading, you want to tango literally just before you start trading and then begin trading. So you're already regenerating your HP. You're trading with Poison Touch with great effectiveness with the Blightstone. And essentially, you basically just want to run it, guys. That is what you want to do as a Dazzle at those early levels. You want to tango up. That's why you have 6. You're going to Poison Touch them and just keep attacking them. You trade so incredibly well as a Dazzle. And that is kind of what you want to do in the early stages of the game. Now, don't get baited into taking Shallow Grave earlier. If your team dies early and they start pinging your Shallow Grave because you're level 3 and you don't have it yet, they're bad, you're fine. There's no reason to take Shallow Grave before level 4. This is the correct build. Don't let your teammates, because they're trying to convince you that you got to take it at level 2 or 3, take it at 4, okay? This is the correct build for Dazzle, okay? If your teammates feed before 4, that's on them, it's not on you, okay? Something that's worth mentioning as well. Why Glimmer Cape, Alex? Now, we know that the Aghanim Shard got buffed, and yes, you want it close to 5 minutes as you can. It's an amazing shard, especially with Poison Touch, and if you get an Aether Lens later on, it's just incredible. Why Glimmer Cape? That seems odd. Wouldn't you just want the added heal of Mechanism first, since you got a Holy Locket? Of course you would. But this Glimmer Cape is so important for Dazzle, because anybody that has played Dota knows that Dazzle is a target priority. Every single time you're in a Dazzle game, the enemy team will say, kill Dazzle first. Why? Because of Shallow Grave. If Dazzle is not dead, he can grave himself, he can most damagingly grave his allies, which basically keep them in the fight, and then he heals them up. And then you basically got to try and kill Dazzle anyway. And it has an 18-second cooldown, which basically means that you might be able to get off 1 or 2 during a fight. So Dazzle is an important target to take down first, especially if you have a silence. So where's Glimmer Cape come in here? Because you are a target, what you want is that Glimmer Cape to be an escape for you, okay? You need the defensive capabilities of this Glimmer Cape. Without Glimmer Cape, you usually just die. And yes, if the enemy brings dust for you and you glimmer, they dust, and you have to grave yourself, and then you pop off all your healings. I mean, at that point, you're creating so much space for your team, or like you're buying so much time and absorbing so much of the enemy team's effort, you've done your job as a position 5 anyways. But if you do not have a Glimmer Cape, and you get gone on and you just die, even if you Shallow Grave yourself, like you've really not contributed to that team fight. So it's so important that you're able to use Glimmer Cape defensively as a Dazzle, because you are a target. You are a team fight target, especially if they have like a Night Stalker on the enemy team. He's going to blink on you, you're going to be silenced, and you're going to die. You need this Glimmer Cape to buy yourself time. It is so incredibly valuable. And then from there, you go the mech because of the amount of healing. And if you get super greedy and the game goes super long, Guardian Greaves, because why not? But ultimately, like, you probably finish your build at mech. I would even make the argument that mech into Aether Lens is better than mech into Guardian Greaves. But I know y'all love Guardian Greaves, so I put it in there anyways. Regardless, guys, thank you so much for watching. And a very special thank you to all of our wonderful subscribers. We'll see you in the next Dota 2 video.